This is part two or actually part three, for our third edition of our discussion about what we will now call the Community Support Program, because we're no longer going to use the term grants. And that was one thing that there was strong sense of agreement on last week. So really quickly to recap overall, I need to really go through this again. This is how we got here, the process that we went through. Last week we looked at accounting the budget for 2016 and key areas of need. Today we're going to get more into the administrative details, talk about decision points, community support program, or as we lovingly now call it, the CSP advisory group, application process, application review awards, project launch, annual program review, and the timetable. Proposals, all these are proposals. Just to sort of pick up on some of the things from last week, again, we're not calling this grants program, we're calling it community support. And that's more than just a window dressing, it's in fact a more accurate reflection of what we have. Given that a lot of the roles that people think that we're best suited to play is in terms of acting as a convener or leader rather than necessarily simply someone who needs a check.
Well, I think the word support sort of then takes it through all those realms rather than grants, which most perceive to be money, where support can be in kind or whatever. So
Exactly. We talked about the details of accounting, changes that were proposed to make this more trackable, etc. Proverb, canned and rested. There was, everybody, there's no illusions that our ability to fund this would be dependent on the overall budget situation. And that, in fact, as Mr. Cross just said, support can come in a number of ways, either through financial support or, as we've discussed, the convener and leadership role. We talked about the areas of potential focus. You see the 5 up there. I think we had a pretty interesting discussion. And in terms of how people are actually out there working on these things felt, you are at the table, which I think was the same table as we had last time. You can see that we are possibly needed or desire to act as a convener in all of these areas, and as a possible funder in 4 of the 5. The discussion we have is pretty interesting. Workforce development seems to tie together many issues, and where many issues are tied to workforce development. Filling the gap for transportation needs for people without resources who don't qualify for human services transport repeatedly came up in many of these areas as either a need in and of itself or as a means to meeting other needs. There are lots of possible places for the Board of Commissioners to play a leadership role. Which ones should we focus on initially? And there's potential for bona fide county government involvement clearer in some need areas than others. I think Commissioner Hertzler said it wasn't clear that the county's role in early childhood development and daycare necessarily was a clear one to be directly involved, but I don't think anybody dismissed the possibility of being a convener or working with, for instance, schools and other organizations to possibly address that. Affordable housing, again, as far as being a funder, that doesn't really make too much sense. But again, potentially a convener role.
I don't know, we just saw Lancaster borrow $9 million.
Yes.
So I think I sent that to you.
You did.
Not advocating here, but being done regionally by somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So here we go. So the first thing to deal with is there's some decision points coming out of last week and the previous presentation, and I sort of picked out these 5. And they are: do we want to target specific areas of need as compared to our current approach, which is eclectic and sort of wide open? And I think we had a lot of discussion on this, and I think we talked a lot, and Commissioner Cross pointed out that, there's been a sort of sea change in the way United Way does it. It's no longer you come to me and ask me for money, but I see a need and I go to you and say, can you meet our need? How to differentiate between areas to provide financial versus convener support? Do we want to assume there will be some funding available knowing that the amount is TBD via the budget process? Do we want an open application process? And what to do regarding previous award recipients? Okay. And on the next slide, you'll see our 2 cents about what the answer to those questions like. Do we want to target specific areas? Yes. And the 2 that seem to percolate and generate the most, not only interest, but in terms of how far people sort of ran with them during our discussion, it was, to my mind, workforce development and transportation were the 2 key areas that seem to be, at least at this point, initially, a potential good match. Again, we don't want to necessarily get ourselves stretched too thin at the beginning, and this would give us some flexibility between 2 different areas, and in fact, there's probably a lot of overlap in relation between the 2. How to differentiate between areas to provide financial and convener support. As we go through this, I think you'll see that there's really almost a need to do both. What you'll see in the administrative proposal is a recommendation that we do some early convening as part of the application review process within the areas of need with key stakeholders. Do we want to assume there will be some funding available? Yes, but obviously with the appropriate disclaimers. I think things look guardedly optimistic enough that I think it's safe to say that there will be some funding available if the commissioner so chose to put it towards this. Do we want an open application process? Yes, but in a directive way, which is a little bit self-contradictory. But if you narrow the focus to certain areas of need, then clearly you're not saying you're just not opening the doors wide open and say anybody and everything involved in any area of need would be sort of have an equal chance for consideration of this. What to do regarding previous award recipients? Obviously, they could apply if they were involved in some shape, manner, or form in the target areas of need. For those who we felt weren't and did not want to continue support, either as part of this program or in some other manner, we could provide them generous notice, some form of support in transitioning away from county funding and as the rest of what follows is the administrative stuff. But there is really sort of a need to make some decisions at whatever point people are ready before any of the administrative stuff really becomes particularly relevant. So for this point, at this point, this is an outline of how this could work in enough detail to, I think, give you an idea of what the new system could look like. First is the application process. We would make an announcement through all available outlets about the county's community support program and what it's like and where we would like to concentrate and all the processes. A lot of these things are pulled from other processes we do. This next one, we hold a bidders conference for individuals who express an interest to find out more before they do the applications, what this is all about, so that we get more informed applicants or participants or potential partners.
And specifically too for me, who else are they seeking support from? Have they already been awarded? Sort of like a scholarship. You know, you're student A and you already know they received 5 scholarships, and student B, fully qualified, maybe has only received 1 scholarship. So maybe that is best then directed to be. The other thing is, what are their goals for me? I mean, what, you know, this is sort of that interviewing process for, you know, selection. You know, do their goals and their outcomes meet if these are the two agreed upon, or at this time, workforce development and transportation. Transportation could be as simple as changing the schedule. I mean, to accommodate the goal, you may just simply have to have the bus run at 10, not at 11. No money's involved in that at all, in a sense. So, I mean, you get a full sort of assessment of who these folks are, what are their goals, and who else have they been in conversation with to say, you know, will another $10,000 make a difference? No, but maybe an in-kind, some type of support rather than money could make a difference.
Exactly. I think if you have a new program, you're going to do things a different way. There's two, the people on the outside aren't aware, and you need to educate them. And on the other hand, in fact, this is an approach where you could have a lot of different paths or routes taken, depending on what the response is from other people doing this for their stakeholders. So I think you know, rather than just sort of say, hey, send in your application, have a bidders conference, talk this stuff through, set up interviews with people so that you can see exactly what you just said. Here's what we're thinking. Are your goals and objectives aligned with the ones that we're seeking? And then through a number of different considerations. I mean, there are things, there are, although you always hear these kinds of organizations saying there's never enough funding, some of them are in fact pretty well funded. There may be a really good outfit out there that perhaps isn't nearly as well funded. There's a question of capacity. So, you know, do you want to pay for administrative overhead versus actual projects that can produce outcomes that you desire? So, and I don't think this is something that necessarily will come just by reading a 10-page. I think there needs to be some dialogue surrounding this, especially from the onset. So,
And walking out of here without a check does not mean we hate you, we don't like you, we're never going to address you again, or your project is, you know, frivolous, or, you know, this is just political.
mm-hmm.
No. You know, as for them coming to the Board of Commissioners, the response then may be a solution that they may not have thought up. Or getting more people around the table, the solution may come from others.
Exactly.
Not from you.
I don't think we're going into any of these things with
No.
a crystal clear idea and a blueprint for everything. I think there's some learning and discovery that needs to go on with ourselves. And if we set up something like this, I think that's a good way to cultivate it. Because even if you don't get what you're hoping you might get this year, you're talking, these problems aren't going to go away because we do a one-year program here, and they're going to be ongoing. They're going to be here for as long as everybody else is here. So those relationships are key. This is where I think the third bullet is where we have where we actually combine the convening with the potential funding. In those two areas, we would convene stakeholders to talk about needs and where the county could possibly do the most good. Then you would begin the application period. You would provide Q&A support to interested parties, close the application period, review and request for additional information, and announce awards, support of kind, and ongoing convening. In the end, this all gets wrapped up into a timetable. The application requirements, we encourage them to be filed online. We want them to be hopefully no more than 10 pages, because frankly, I don't want to read any more than 10 pages. It would include things like your organizational qualifications in the target area of need, as Commissioner Cross alluded to, including your overall program logic model, i.e. how do the resources you use produce the outputs and outcomes that you claim to produce. This is a key point that everybody in the United Way if you want funding from the United Way, and you can't explain your program logic model, you're at SOL. But they've done a lot of work with a lot of the grantees, your prospective grantees, to help them figure that out. Sometimes people actually are doing good things, but just aren't really good at explaining it. Specific project that they want supported. What is the specific project program model? The budget, resources, all the kinds of things you would normally expect. Project plan and timetable, metrics, and reporting. Beyond the 10 pages, you want references, applicable past project experience, and copies of all their essential documentation. This comes based on my previous experience with the feds, doing RFPs, as well as a lot of the same processes we do here in the county, such as contracts and other grants and stuff. There's nothing particularly original here. Now, who's going to sort of be in charge? I think the commissioners have an important role, but we don't want the commissioners necessarily to be the administrators for this, because what you like, I think, is what we call the CSP advisory group. And that would be representatives from the commissioner's office, finance, solicitor, controllers, and perhaps an at-large, either from within the county government or even from the community. The function of this group would be to set the CSP schedule for each year, be in charge of communications around CSP, probably in conjunction with our own communications department. Administers the application process, reviews and evaluates the applications, recommends the awards, what awards should be made, either in finance or in kind, to the board of commissioners who would then approve them. The advisory group would also monitor progress and review reports, and just determine the status at the end of the project period.
Some of these could be a 2-year project. They may not have an immediate beginning, middle, and end. Or they may have received true grants from other sources that require that they spend in this particular year so many dollars. So, the end of the project period may need to be some flexibility.
Right, and I think this is similar to what we do with our name sharing projects. We review them on an ongoing basis, and at the end of the year, you have to apply again, and it's open. If you're still meet the requirements and it serves use and purpose, then we renew it. And I think we can do the same thing here. So as far as how the application review process goes, we collect and review the applications for completeness. We use a standard evaluation scorecard to assess. We consult with the candidates and even provide coaching. Each of the members of the advisory group would score each of the proposals individually and then get together as a group to come to some kind of consensus, finalize the scores, and then, as I mentioned before, make recommendations to the board of commissioners for approval. This reminds me of the 60s down at Cumberland East.
Yeah.
Okay, so we make the awards. Now, one of the key things I think has been a theme in the presentations is notion of accountability. Okay, this is not, I think we were all, I'm not saying that anybody ever consciously espoused that we just throw money over the fence. But I think, after our experience with organizations like CAT, the need for accountability and oversight, I think we all feel that pretty acutely. It's not only, it's learning from experience, but it's also a best practice. This is for stewards of the taxpayers' money. You want to make sure that it's put to the use that it's designated for. So there is some need for oversight, and here's sort of an outline of what that would be. To have oversight, you need to have agreement on the terms and conditions of the project. So upon award, the advisory group would meet with the awardees to confirm objectives confirm a timetable, confirm deliverables, confirm metrics, set up reporting requirements, set dates for quarterly reviews, set conditions for the release of funds. In some cases, we might release all the funds at the beginning if there were funds involved. In other cases, we might make it contingent on progress based on milestones. And before the project was begun and any money was dispensed, there would be a contract signed. And just FYI, because it came up, Mid-Penn Legal, there is no contract.
There's no contract.
No contract. Okay.
And we are not your only source of revenue.
And then, at the post-launch, the advisory group would again report out to the OC on any of the projects that are approved.
Or just for clarification, there's no contract, but they are providing county services. It's not just a gift, to use the term that Jim used.
There's no contract. I mean, I would like to assume that, but without a contract, I cannot tell you one way or the other.
But, different services can tell you right away.
Probably.
I mean, that's who I know that they deal with.
So they're doing services for us, but not on a contractual basis. So on what basis are they doing services for? If they feel like it, if,
You don't know. But there is no formal, I mean, that was the question that came up.
Yeah.
There is no formal, it's not like we have a contract to provide services with certain terms and conditions with them. I think there's probably more good faith involved in that, and probably, that's not inappropriate. But again, in God, we trust everyone else signs a contract.
right, we should know what the expectations are of the parties, even if it's not contractual.
And I don't mean that to be in any way disparaging to the organization, this is from everything I've heard, excellent. But you just want things done right. Okay, so the projects get underway. The advisory group would receive and review scheduled reports and have quarterly review sessions with the awardees. And if it was determined that within reason the awardees weren't making sufficient progress, essentially they'd be put on a corrective action plan and potentially further funding could be withheld. Okay? And that funding, if there was to be a resumption in funding, that would be contingent on complying with the terms of the corrective action program. So if, for instance, one of the key deliverables early in the project was you were going to train 5 people to do X, Y, and Z by the end of month 3, and by the end of month 3, nobody had been trained, it's the time to say, well, and either get the thing back on track or give it the X or the kibosh. So assuming, and one of the things that the folks at the United Way were saying, you have some folks, awardees out there that are really good at this stuff. And, to the extent that there's repeated compliance and completed progress, that the level of monitoring in most cases, particularly if you went to a multi-year kind of relationship, it might not have to be quite so stringent, although there should probably be a minimum threshold beneath which you wouldn't want to go.
Most of them are workforce development. You're talking about a 6-week training program. How do you actually place those people? So you can train 50. Are they going to be employed? Or have you brought in the employers to say, these are the jobs we're looking for. Let's have a 6-week training program so they're trained and also they're employed.
Right. So that's your outcomes and outputs. The outputs is getting people trained, the outcomes
And they have a job.
they have a job.
And then there's affordable housing, and then that whole thread kind of goes through the community.
Okay. So at the end of the project, at the end of the year, the advisory group will review all the final reports, do a final review of the awarding and a project evaluation. All the financial accounts will be settled. The awardees and the advisory group will make a presentation shortly to the Board of Commissioners, full of facts and figures. And the advisory group would make recommendations on awarding suitability for future funding, either as part of an ongoing project or for future new projects that they might come up with. And then the Board of Commissioners will make a final decision regarding awardee eligibility for future funding. Now, in addition to actual the management of the awardees, there would be an annual program review in 2 parts. Early in the first quarter, there'd be the advisory group would take a look at its operations and its processes and procedures, come up with recommendations for improving it to get better results or to create fewer obstacles for qualified awardees, or to improve any of the things that we think are important to come out of this program. In the second quarter, there would be sort of an update where we bring back our friends from United Way, Tri-County, and whomever, to talk sort of like a state of the county. We would sort of put out what the aggregate areas of need are in the county. In that way, if there was a need to change our focus from, let's say, just for instance, from transportation to health, we could make that decision in time for the next cycle in the coming year and have that switch of emphasis. We could add an area, we could take one away. If we felt that we had accomplished everything we could hope to accomplish in a certain area, you could retire that area, put it on the back burner, bring in another area depending on what, again, these people who utilize the community-based needs assessment methodology would come back and advise us regarding that. And I use the United Way and Tri-County simply because that's what we used before. We could include others in that as well.
But to the Human Services Policy Team, with all the agencies sitting around that table, they know in the community where that need is. So for aging, for example, or for Jack, drug and alcohol. So that consultation may in fact be an internal look, I'm on page 19, might be an internal look to services that are there, but within the community, those who are also providing. Not necessarily as, I hate the word vendor, but under contractual, but the need. Sort of listening to the town hall action.
Yes.
There were a lot of folks around that table or that event.
Yeah,
So
people were part of the
we
meeting.
may be able to identify, and even that third person other on open finance and whatever, a human services individual, whether that's children, youth, prison, whatever, might serve at the county level to give you or Dana or Bob a better feel for what they're experiencing in the short form.
And I think we see that in our own people, and I think probably in some of the departments more than others. But you do have that kind of, these people in human services do see how different things are fit together and linked. You have the problem that they're dealing with, let's just say, with addiction. And they're seeing all the different things, the profiles of people in that situation. So they have, I think, a very good idea of they have the right kind of perspective on the discussion.
Well, on the results. Where are the successful programs, where not?
Right.
And the Drug and Alcohol Commission from us and Paris do that each year. So Jack's got sort of that already set up through the Drug and Alcohol Commission. So when he looks for, rather than a vendor, the word's provider. So when he's looking for a provider, that commission goes through and reviews those providers before those recommendations are made.
Yeah, I think that would give us a much stronger advantage.
And see where some redundancies are.
Yeah, exactly. Because I get the feeling our human services people come across just about anybody out there who's trying Okay, so as far as the annual review goes, there would be, again, come back to the Board of Commissioners with its recommendations on areas of focus. They would sort of participate in advisory roles of finance in terms of budgetary process and, again, how much money might put in the following year's budget cycle for this. And finally, develop a funding proposal for upcoming budget cycle based on what's out there, what the need is out there, what our role is out there, and how much, and how's the budget. And then finally, here we just sort of wrap it all up into a timetable. These are the key things that would have to be done if we wanted to get this in place in time for this, for the 2016 budget cycle. It's aggressive. It's not totally cosmic, but it's aggressive, but it can be done. And you'll see that this takes us all the way through to the beginning of the second cycle in 2017. But that will be how the whole thing will work from start to finish. So that's the presentation. Comments, questions, thoughts?
How is this not a grants program? Since we changed the name from grants program, but how is this not a grants program?
I think in some of the areas it's entirely possible and highly probable that we wouldn't be giving anybody any money. We might be providing a resource to the client, someone, a facilitator, let's say, administrative support for the agreed-upon project. There would be our time, the advisory group's time, and the cost of that time involved in participating in that. And there may not be any grants given out as a result. And there was a lot of evidence to point to the fact that our role as a leader, as a leader of a silo breaker or whatever you want to call it, is much more important at this point than just going in and putting money into competing organizations or competing over the same turf for the same funding and have redundant infrastructures or administrative stuff. And I suspect that over time, if say transportation or workforce development remain there and concern over an extended period of time, I think you would see funding, grant-like funding come and go over the course of that, depending on the progress that was made. I mean, I don't think I would never assume that we're going in there and solving a problem in a 3-year plan. I think we're going in there and trying to be pretty precise about what it is we try to do and who we choose to do it with in a very responsible and well-monitored, quantitatively data-driven process.
Refresh my memory, so the quantitative aspect of it, the metrics, they're going to be developed by the group?
It'd be, as part of but they would have to say how they were going to measure everything in their proposal, part of their evaluation. But their proposal would be, do you understand what measurements mean and what are the quality of the measurements that you provide? Okay, so if someone, I don't mean to pick on libraries, let's say library was a thing, proposal thing, they said, we're here to obliterate childhood illiteracy, and our metric is going to be the number of books checked out. We'd have an issue with that. Now, we still thought they had good potential. We sit down with them prior to their filing their application to see if they had the wherewithal or to come up with actual outcomes measurement. And let's assume that they did. Okay, they could set up their project in terms of we have this cohort of children, and their current level is X, and we'd like to get it to X plus 25% by year 2. Then we need to see the data after the award to see what kind of progress are they making. So it's the operational thing. Are you doing the things you said you would do? One, which is more administrative, less quantitative. And the second part is, are you producing the outcomes that you said you were doing. So that requires the data, and that has to be demonstrated. And that's the norm now for the United Way. If you can't show that you're making an impact the way that you said you were going to make an impact, you don't get the funding. And I think it's a smart way to go. United Way is the steward for the funds of the people who donate to them. We are the stewards of the funds that the taxpayers give to us through the taxation process. I think and again, the good news is I think more and more organizations are getting more and more sophisticated at doing this and gearing their programs to being able to show real outcomes rather than just either a feel-good thing or a sort of qualitative. Yeah, we're assuming we made a dent because look at all the people who came to our picnic or something like that.
One of the questions too is sustainability and the perception that an organization is building their budget on the fact that it's going to be sustained by the county government. Maybe not. Or there may be a project that truly does have a beginning, middle, and end. This was the project. Or there are those sustainable projects that need to continue to happen. So I would hope that the consulting group sort of sees those, what's the goal? As you said, eliminating poverty.
Yes, Linda Johnson.
Respectfully, that's great. But how that's really going to happen.
Exactly.
But with limited resources and energy and time, you might be able to tackle some issues that contribute to the poverty, not problem.
I think to me, the most interesting part of all the work that's been done it was great. I love talking with United Way and learning about the community-based needs assessment, outcomes measurements, and program logic models and all that stuff. But what was really fun was talking to people like Ben and Ben and what I normally talk about how we're going to get this thing, all the documents lined up to be approved. But to talk to people like Ben and talk to people talk to the gentleman who runs the WIF, Workforce Investment Foundation.
Oh, yeah, the Workforce Investment Board. Yeah, that's
WIF. And to see them, what they're doing and some of the things they're thinking of. I mean, I think a lot about things, but I can't come up with some of the ideas. I would never come up with in years with some of the things that they work on. So not all of them are great, but you sort of tap it in a true partnership. You tap in, both partners bring stuff to the table. We might bring in the breadth of vision or the ability to transcend silos and to bring people together. But there are people out there who have been beating their heads against these problems, and if they're making progress, it's like anything else, it's the survival of the fittest. You're out there and you're banging your head against a problem, and you cannot produce results sooner or later, nobody's going to give you funding. If you, by the mere fact of your survival, financial survival, as more and more funding organizations are requiring this, there's a good chance out there that you're learning from what you're doing and coming up with really, good ideas. The problem is that all this stuff is being done in a very dispersed manner, and in only some ways, and United Way at some level coalesces it and aggregates it. But I think as a county government, we have a chance to help contribute to that process and try to get a more comprehensive overview of everything that's going on. And what is it precisely that down here was going to make a difference out here in what you want to eventually see happen? And I think one of the reasons that I think the transportation and workforce development of the place is concentrated is I think those are the kinds of things where if there's something important that can be done in those areas, it begins to create benefits and solve problems, the basis to solve problems in other areas as well.
Well, I walk down the street to the Employment Skills Center. Yeah. So, I see the successes that they've had.
Yeah, I mean, we still get, I think we're starting to get more CNAs back through the nursing home and all that stuff. And, I'm in there at the coffee shop down the corner. They all come in their white uniforms and they order their lattes and stuff, trying to keep awake so they can make it through the course of their certification. So,
But we've done about it, individuals that can't read, that simply cannot read. So, that whole workforce development sort of walks back to a variety of other issues.
Exactly.
So, and legal, back in my mind, domestic violence. So now affordable housing, because you're not in a house that you woke up in this morning.
No,
You're in a shelter, because that's the very best safe place for you.
right.
So, a lot of things
And they all are.
impact significantly. But I can tell you that work on the Commission for Women on the Association. I put in a couple calls and had maybe one returned. And I appreciate it's August and there's a lot of things going on with budget, but these calls were made previous to that, to see whether or not the state, with the Commission for Women that I sat on, would take on sort of a project, and that any local commissions for women would satellite off that. Many counties don't have a commission like that. I mean, they do not do that. They don't do this. So ours is about 10 years old, maybe 11 or 12. That's great. There was a time when there were specific projects and outcomes from the Commission for Women. That seems to have waned down. Continuingly to give them funding may have another look if in fact the State Commission for Women would take on women's health. Could be a direction in which the county's commissions for women could be then placed under an umbrella.
Well, at one point, the original founding premise of the Commissions for Women was there was a guide provided, put out by the state. The focus was on promoting the idea of women-owned businesses. And the state manual was produced by the state, made available in the counties. So that was the focus area of it. And then, I don't know at what point that organization was here when I got here, at what point it kind of migrated off and then it's kind of going this direction and that direction and that direction. And I guess my concern with some of these things would be that lack of focus may tend to make them less effective and hard to staff with volunteers, hard to assemble achievable goals for.
Right.
So I think that's a good example for just that reason. It became more all-encompassing and flexible, but in the process, in many cases, that didn't necessarily translate into positive results.
Correct.
So I'd be concerned about leaving things so wide open that they mutate into something that's completely out of the scope of what was originally intended. Because somebody doesn't feel like working on this issue this year, they want to work on this issue this year.
And I think that's, that's really up to us to make sure that's the way this thing is done. It reminds me a lot of what we're trying to do with the libraries. So give me some latitude here, but they think that everything that they do could possibly do is a wonderful thing to do, and we should pay for it through the county tax. Well, the fact of the matter is, most of it, a lot of the stuff they do is pretty wonderful, and it probably does pretty good for the community. But A, they can't prove it. B, we don't know if they're better or worse at it than anybody else, and isn't making the kind of impact in your community that you really want it to. So we're all well-intentioned people, all very smart, all probably doing really good things, but it's time to take it to the next level. And if we follow the example of the United Way, it's not an outrageous, it's becoming the norm to ask people and organizations to prove that. You also need some kind of an ongoing strategic assessment so that you don't have, because for reasons bad and good, you want to give lots of room at the local level for initiative, okay? And for flexibility and adaptability. But a lot of times people want to get all the things because it's their pet thing, or it's because they could, they have a special aptitude for it or what have you. But we don't have to fund all that just to give people something to feel good about, okay? And I don't mean to sound, harsh here, but the path to hell is paved with good intentions. What you want is good results, good outcomes.
Well, yeah, because getting money doesn't mean we don't like you.
Exactly.
I mean,
Or that
for
you're
the
not doing
Commission
good
for
things.
Women, I think it started out, I believe it was like $5,000. $3,000. Whatever it was a significant amount of money. And there were some great projects. And then you're seeing it sort of wind down. So then it becomes more of personality dependent than what is the organization on what they're contributing. So, with the State Commission for Women, they will take on, a certain project. So why would not then those counties who have commissions for women team up with the Commonwealth's Commission for Women rather than not?
And
That's the only thing I was advocating for.
And-
Rather than looking for the continual, we've got 25 members, or we've been here for 10 years, or this is what we're doing, we need another $3,000, or another $5,000, or you keep taking our money away every year. Well, maybe there's other organizations who now have percolated up or have been established all along that could, in fact, work with you or you work with them, and not be dependent upon tax dollars.
Exactly. I think you have a good example. See, we all heard about the Tri-County Planning Commission. If you have an organization, whether it's a state organization, a regional organization, or what have you, if they do a good job in consulting with their stakeholders and their funders about what it is that's really important, you will get a direction from above that makes sense. Now, I use Tri-County Planning Commission because they have a bunch of people who don't talk to their funders, and they come up with projects like, let's combat food deserts, when in fact we live in probably one of the richer agricultural areas in the world. To the people who sat in that office and didn't believe much, it made perfect sense because that's what they heard about in their conferences and what they read about in their journals. But did they talk to Kirk? Did they talk to the planning people and other?
Penn State Ag Extension. I mean,
But if the organization on top is a true convener and does in fact gather that information from the base, what they give back to the base should be good and should benefit everybody and be worth everybody's investment into it.
and you would know what those individual goals and measures are.
Exactly.
I would think you would know that.
Right. And then everybody be looking at the same issue, looking at the same metrics and seeing how we're doing. And you can have a lot better discussion about it, about what's working, what's not working, and then if you should continue it or change it or modify it. If everybody's agreed upon what they want to accomplish and looking at metrics that everybody believes is a good indicator of how well things are going. And I think we can do that. I think we can do it on a small scale, but I don't think it takes a large scale necessarily to actually produce some good and in fact significant results. So what I would say is, let's think about this for another day, so I can talk to commissioners when it gets back.
Yeah.
And get his input, and if everybody's in agreement, we need to make any modifications, we make modifications. If we get the green light, we'll proceed.
And I think that at-large advisory group just sort of, take a look at internally all this year. And then appreciating that while we're sitting here in Carlisle, services and needs run from Shippensburg to the river. So, not just within, the 3 blocks that are here on the square. And those needs are very different.
Yes. As a resident.
I mean, transportation alone is very different.
As a resident of Shippensburg, yes. Bob, Dana, do you guys have?
Yes, ma'am.
Good?
No.
Okay.
Ideas, thoughts?
It's all pretty much covered over the last couple of weeks. From the top line.
Good, criticism, no? Right path, different path?
I think this is the best path to go down.
Okay. Looking back here, Dana?
Yeah, if the county's gonna continue on any type of support program, this would be the way to go. It's instead of what we had in the past.
Well, and I think that was initially my concern sort of last week when I saw the numbers. It's one of those, okay, here's a number, let's find a need. Here's it's a solution for a problem. say, here's $150,000, or you bring me what that need is. That need could be overwhelming. That need could be $25,000, or that need could be, as we just talked about, in kind, a solution, change the bus schedule, don't give me another bus, just come at 10 o'clock when everybody needs to be at work. Don't come at 11 o'clock when nobody's on the corner. I don't know that, but I understand for the money of it, you need to say, okay, here's $100,000. But it may not be all money. And what if, gee, we need 110. Now we're creeping up, and well, this is a really great project, and then there's a little mission creep in the project. I don't know which does come first, the dollars or the conversation of solutions to true needs.
I think it's going to be the latter. And I think everything the United Ways has been telling us is that's the quid pro quo that they use.
I mean, corporations will answer their administrative needs. And in the conversation of giving, that is how they approach giving. My responsibility will be to, as a corporation, provide that revenue so that United Way will give this money here. So the lights are on, the phones work, all that is handled through another opportunity. Yes, ma'am.
I think we need to keep the philosophy of how we budget for, as a county intact. Just because it's in the budget doesn't mean we have to spend it. So that's, we put a placeholder in there, but it doesn't mean that we're going to spend that placeholder. We only spend it if we need it.
So if we put X amount of dollars in, and really, in the first year, let's say, there was more demand for us to be conveners and give support, and that came to 1/2 of X. We don't have to spend all that, right? We're not under some kind of order for that money. It's like we recognize that there's a problem that needs to be addressed, and if there isn't somebody who can make a contribution to the improvement of that problem, then we'll wait and see what comes around next time. If there is something, then we'll work with it, whether it's providing financial support or providing support of kind or leadership, communities.
And it's defensible and supportable both for the decision makers and for the folks who need to administer afterwards also.
But I think it's important for the community too, and sort of that communications message to the community is, here's not $150,000 that's going to be given away. If this change is coming about, then the communications to not only those who may be receiving support, but those taxpayers who have provided dollars in their tax bills.
Because the sequence of this is over time. If you're there getting the picture taken with the commissioners and a photo op because you've just been awarded X, it's going to say why you were awarded X and the results that you were expected to produce. And there may not be any more photo opportunities subsequent to that of a positive nature if you don't.
Well, the one you want is the outcomes. The one you ultimately want, what I would expect would be that next photo on, this is the success of this, and these were the outcomes.
Yes. Here's the goals. Here's what we achieved. Here's what we learned. And that's part of that ongoing process. So there should be a good photo op at the beginning and a good photo op at the end where we announce how much it accomplished. So I will talk to Commissioner Ritzler.
I'm going to have a few more questions as this goes along. I'm a little bit skepticism about the potential for this to just increase the scope of what the county is involved in, maybe not in a strategic way. And the possibility too that I don't want the photo ops driving the decision either. So I think there may be some safeguards that we could do structural that might make this, might protect us against some of those possible problems.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, thanks. Appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity to present.